Good morning, everyone. It is July 1st, and weather report, it's hot here in the desert. I think it's going to hit 96 today, but by Saturday, it's going to be 110. So, here's up, as always. Get to my journal. So, this entry is from November 17th, 23. I gave today's date is July 1st, but the entry is November 17th, and yet there's a third date whenever this airs. So like I said, I'm not going to bring up the air date because I have no clue. My goal is to have 10 complete shows before I even launch my channel and start the first one. So I'll be weeks and weeks behind, but at some point I should catch up. But today is July 1st. This entry is from November 17th of 23. I was thinking about Kevin and Marianne and Nan. Just as a reminder, those are our neighbors that my mom was good friends with the wife. My dad was a pedophile friend with the husband, and they abused Kevin, the boy, but not the girl. Anyway, I was thinking about Kevin, Marianne, and Nan. How Marianne never left Nan with Bob alone, ever. She was vigilant about it. She said she couldn't. Her and Mom were at the kitchen table talking about it. She said she couldn't trust Bob with her, that it was bad enough with Kevin, but he was a boy, a man someday, and he should be able to handle it. She had to pick a child, and I put in parentheses, to sacrifice, just like Sophie's Choice, the movie. See? Movie's stuck in my head. She didn't know if Diana, who her nickname is Nan, because we had the same name, could handle it. But Kevin wound up an alcoholic drug addict and homeless in Phoenix as an adult. Shame on her, I put, exclamation. To this day right now, Kevin is a lost soul on the streets of Phoenix, Arizona. And it breaks my heart. And I know why. Anyway, Mom said she had tried with Dad to keep him off us, but it was just impossible. Angie and Mary seemed to be off his radar, but with me she couldn't get him to stop. Nor could she constantly have me at her side like Marianne. That she talked to Dad and argued with him all the time. He just wouldn't listen. I recalled the book Sexual Sabotage, and that's by Judith Reisman. Excellent book. And how it discussed the Chester the Molester cartoon, how it trained the readers that child molestation was okay and even funny. Also in the cartoon, if you see me doing that, it's because it's a side note. Also in the cartoon was a woman helper to the molester. Look that cartoon up, Chester the Molester. You'll see it's either his wife or his girlfriend, sister, mother, somebody. But she helped facilitate the molestation of children. And this is a comic. It's supposed to be funny. And that was, I wrote on the side, the book Sexual Sabotage was from 1945 to the year 2000. That's where it discusses Chester the Molester. And how that comic alone, I think it was put in Playboy or Hustler or one of those magazines. But then I think it became more mainstream later. Was all big, just a big joke. Child molestation. And technically if it's a father and their child, it's incest and sexual abuse. And rape. Anyway, so I'm just telling you how mainstream inserts that stuff into there to normalize it and make it funny. Anyway. Back to the journal. And then that movie, Sophie's Choice, I put in there, 1982, training women to choose one child to what? Suffer, etc., to be sacrificed. But it was 1982. It was too late to apply to my situation because my situation was between 65 and 76. So I kept thinking that movie must have programmed my mom and her friend, but it couldn't have. But I just wanted to show you how movies impact us. So I put the two together, all thought out from me. Yeah, the powers that be, they know what's going on. They are creating these issues, and they're training the public through music, through television, movies, billboards, magazines, fictional books. They're training us that it's normal. Anyway, November 18th, 23, the next day, I remembered that during that rape by Whitey in that cellar, his girlfriend Irene was not silent in the corner. She told me what to do, much in the same way. Irene had a black robe on too. She watched and masturbated, but also directed and instructed me. And this is what I'm talking about, going over, because I would reread the entries and then I'd have another memory. So the first memory was that it was just me and Whitey. And then I remembered, oh, well, she was in the corner when it was all over. She revealed herself. Well, now I'm realizing, no, she wasn't just sitting in the corner watching. She watched, masturbated, but also directed and instructed me. She placed a very hard dildo in me while I gave Whit a blowjob. She said, "A dick that never dies, never gets soft." Whit used his feet on my hips to rock my body on the dildo. So I'm on his penis with my mouth, on my hands and knees, and he put his feet on my hips and is rocking me against that. He was very hard and made it hurt me. I think this is why I never orgasmed till I met Chris, my husband. My body-mind didn't want to recall it, shut down the sensations. When I did remember it, like when I recalled the gang rapes with Dad and Grandpa, I was with Chris and then I would orgasm. I'm always ashamed my body does that, but I understand it is the Pavlovian conditioning is what creates it. And I'll be playing a video I did for Alan Watts' channel about Pavlov, so you can understand conditioning. That's how it was years ago with the gang rape thing. But after some time, the images, and I'm just going to make a note here. I'm kind of avoiding. I keep on here. I wrote gang bang thing. A gang bang is mutual and between adults. So I have to, when I read that, I have to say rape and tell my part. This wasn't your choice. You were raped. So even now, as I'm going through it again, probably the 6th time, I'm getting corrections from my parts. But after some time, the images went off of that. So in time, so will this. But it does serve to stimulate the memories that would otherwise be suppressed. The body will do what it was trained to do. That's Pavlovian conditioning. I recall Dad and Bob's the husband of Marianne, our neighbors, having their abuse of their children as a sick kind of bond, that they could confide in each other, and also a kind of respect about it. But Dad couldn't get his head around the homo part of it. Bob said that's what he likes. He and Bob would bring it up and chuckle. My dad's sick chuckle, I put in parentheses. He had this, and I'm not even mocking it, right? Anyway. He and Bob would bring up and chuckle about the Chester the Molester cartoon. So that's why that popped in my head, because it's part of another memory. They thought it was great, but too bad their wives weren't like his wife, so I guess it was the wife. A damn shame, they said. But Whitey was lucky enough to have that, a wife who was on board. And I have a line, different memory. I do remember in my 20s, Joe, who is a good friend of mine from, oh my goodness, we still talk. We've been friends for 54 years. I do remember my 20s, Joe and I were dating. I had already gone and gotten a vibrator and dildo and told him about it. He was approving of it, but we never used them. it seemed the thing to do. I had only a small amount of qualms over it when I did it, but Joe's approval made that go away. And I think, I'm not even sure why I went and got it. It's just something came up in my mind, and I don't think I had been with anyone for a long time, and I think it was, maybe I had heard on a talk show or something that, oh, it's a great stress reliever, you know. Anyway, see what television can do to you? So here's another separate kind of disjointed memory or journal. Angie, my sister, is always bringing up to my niece, Celine, who is now about 22, 23 years old, just use a toy. You don't have to use it. You have to have a guy. You know, because my sister is 62 and she's never been married, and, you know, when she's not with someone, that's what she uses. And Celine is single and not always with someone. And anyway, so that's Angie's advice to my niece, is just use a toy. You don't have to have a guy. Quite a few times. Celine was quiet the first time Angie said it, somewhat agreed the next time Angie said it, but the last time she was a bit annoyed. Because, you know, Celine's like, okay, you're right. Did we have to talk about this? So I have my sister training my niece to, you know, that's considered deviance. Masturbation. So plus, even now, Angie goes out of her way to show me her butt or boobs. I don't care for it. You know, when I'm over at her house and check out, you know, and I'm like, I don't need to see your boobs or your ass, you know, or your cute little G-string underwear. I'm not interested. But one of her parts feels a need. Anyway, next entry, November 24th, 23. When Chris and I had sex today, so this is during sex, I remembered that Irene, the wife of Whitey, directed Whitey to really pound her with that dildo. As I gave him a blowjob, Whitey, his feet were on my hips and he rocked me. The idea was to create as much pain so as to associate or combine orgasm with pain. And I'm realizing right now as I'm reading this, it was to disassociate me as well. To train that into my body. It was a hard dildo too. I think a stone of some kind. So it wasn't even the modern day soft things. This is where my cry/moan of orgasm came from. Because it's very distinct. I always thought what an odd sound that I made. Irene and me mixed, her moan, my cry and scream. So that's what came out of me as an adult. Very sick, but now I know that aspect of myself. And it's very personal. It's not that I want to share my intimate life with my husband, but it's relevant to what's going on with the SRA. I also am retraining my body to orgasm by being present with Chris. I open my eyes and look at his body, because generally I'd keep my eyes closed. I also work on opening my heart as well. I make a conscious effort to think about the things that I love about him, think about things that I just love in the world, you know, love of my animals, of Jesus, of whatever. And I try to look at his body, open my heart, and have sex with him. And yeah, it can be a lot of work sometimes. Opening my heart as well. When I do that, and particularly when I open my heart, my body will respond and I will orgasm. And I think that's the natural way it's supposed to be. But I didn't know that. I always had my eyes closed, focused on the sensations, whatever. But so I learned that lesson. I just wish it was. I just wish that it was an actual. I put dick in me, and not a dildo. So next entry, November 25th, 23. After that rape with Whitey and Irene, I came back to our cabin. So now this is back when I'm 7 years old. at that town called Three Lakes. We had the 3 cabins and 3 families each had a thing. Mom was inside with Angie, Mary, and Jolly. Jolly's the daughter of Whitey. Angie and Mary are my sisters. It was loud and chaotic. I recall Dad said he sent me to get Whit and Irene, so I had more of this memory come. We took so long. What happened? Irene said she fell in the mud and had to shower. So sorry so long, she said. I had to pretend I was okay, normal. At the table, I was in a panic and scared. I had lots of pain, but I couldn't let Mom know. I was on the edge of tears. So they abused me in that cabin with this stone dildo, the 2 of them, and he's just ripping me apart and screaming. She makes up and says, oh, yeah, I'm sorry we took so long, I had to take a shower. And now we're sitting down to eat dinner together, and I'm trying to cope. I couldn't let Mom know. I was on the edge of tears. Irene and Jolly and Whit kept Mom distracted. I tried to eat, but my colon and intestines were inflamed. I had some urine leaking out of me. I burned everywhere inside. I couldn't hold back the tears. I was ashamed and embarrassed. The same thing I would feel with my husband. I couldn't move or she wouldn't see that I wet the chair. Dad was winking at me, Whit too. I didn't know what to do. Finally, the dam broke. I cried. I hurt so bad. I got up and it took Mom a bit to notice the chair. I went to the bathroom. I was so tense I couldn't go. It leaked out and burned so badly. Mom came in. She took the wet clothes and brought dry pajamas. Now, I was still wetting the bed till I was 11 years old, and I was 7 here, so I think Mom was just thinking, well, she wasn't, well, it was out of the norm because I didn't urinate during the day. She didn't know why I was so upset. I couldn't say. Irene popped her head in and said, need help? No, Mom said. She put her finger to, and Mom was busy with me, so Irene's behind her, and Irene goes, to me behind Mom's back. I had horrible vaginal and abdominal pain, and I'd like to add here cold anal as well. I'm going to write that down. Burning pee and so slow a flow. It was excruciating. Finally, I laid down in bed. It hurt. After Mom left, I sat up, blanket around me. I cried and rocked a long time and sucked my thumb. Now I'm 7, so I'm reverting back into an earlier part. I'm realizing right now as I read this. Angie and Mary came in, tried to quiet me. I laid on my side all curled up. In the morning, I had blood in my underwear. I was panicked. So was Angie. Mom couldn't know. Angie said she would say that it was hers, that she was due for her first period soon, that she used my undies that day. She tried to wash them. Mary didn't care and just looked on. I realize as I'm reading this, kind of wouldn't, I think maybe, because Angie would have been 9, and I don't think she got her period till 11, but I think Mom was talking to her about it, and so maybe she thought that that would be a plausible excuse and something Mom would brush off and not worry about. We packed to leave that day. Mom didn't see them, or she didn't say anything. There was lots of loud music. Mom didn't like this. This was when I was gone the night before. Oh, okay, so I'm jumping back in time. There was lots of loud music. Mom didn't like this. This was when I was gone the night before. Was mad at Dad in the car. Oh, I guess we're driving home. All the chaos. She had heard enough loud music, kept turning down the radio in the car. Dad got mad, so we are driving home. I was a zombie again. Still lots of pain, burning pee, for days. I got a fever. Mom took me to the doctor. I had a bladder infection. Got to stay in bed. School was to begin soon. I didn't want to go. So this is the next entry, November 26th of 23. After we got back home, I still had a massive pain in my vagina and intestines and wet my pants a lot. Mom took me to the doctor 1 or 2 days later. After I think it was 1 or 2 days later because my dad kept saying, oh, she'll work it, she wets the bed anyway, she'll work it out, and kind of gaslighted my mom into waiting. After he examined me, he asked me if someone had put their penis in my vagina. The doctor. I panicked. I stopped breathing. My heart raced. So the adrenaline's coming up. Having a panic attack. He asked me if I knew what he meant, and I nodded. And that this was a safe place to talk. No one else would know. Oh, I remember just now. The reason Dad wanted me to wait because the doctor Dad wanted me to go to wasn't available. And so Mom just got the substitute doctor. So I'm thinking right now that, or I realized back then that doctor was in the pocket of my dad and probably this SRA group. So Mom happened to go see a doctor outside the group. She defied my dad and took me to the doctor. He asked me if I knew what he meant. I nodded and that it was a safe place to talk. No one else would know. He asked again. There was a nurse who took my hand. I felt a rush of fear and blood to my head. No, I said. He said it was okay to talk about it. The nurse nodded and stroked my hair and back. I was hot. She knelt down and said it was safe. He asked again. And as I'm reading this, I'm getting the impression that the nurse was part of the SRA group. I burst out into tears. No, if I do, I get the daggers. I can't. No, the daggers are worse. I was becoming hysterical. I grabbed my crotch. No daggers. The nurse stroked my back and kept saying, it's okay, you don't have to talk about it. It's okay, just try to relax. So she was counteracting what the doctor was doing. The doctor went out to the room Mom was in. He left the door open a crack. I could hear him talk to Mom. He had her sit down. The nurse is just finishing up with Diana, he said. He said, Karen, I'm just going to come right out and say what's wrong. Okay, she said. If I were a betting man, I would say Diana has been sexually assaulted and badly. What? Mom says. Calm down, let me explain. Her hymen is broken, but that's not all. All the tissue inside her vagina is inflamed and torn. The only time we see this is when someone has been raped. Mom stammered, what? I don't know how. Are you sure? Then he asked where we were when this began, if I was with any strangers. Yes, Mom said. Are they still around or present? No, we were on vacation. Good, so those people are far away? Yes. I interjected something here after I went through this. What about her father? Any possibility he was involved? I don't think so, Mom says. She looked down and away as she said that. Now keep in mind that my mom, every time she got a clue and confronted my dad, he either drugged her or gaslighted her, told her she was crazy, stupid, whatever, belittled. So he put her into denial parts. So part of her knew, but other parts took over when they were required. He explained that if he reports this, there's a good chance the state will take away the kids. So he wants to give her a chance to get things under control, and that based on the previous bladder infections, so had them all the time, he is led to think Dad is involved. And Karen, you have to leave him to protect your children. I believe the first time we were at that, what I call Three Lakes, that's the name of the city, I was 7. And the second time, this incident, I was 8. My mom divorced my dad when I was 10, so I believe this was the first seed implanted in her to get away. She said she would have to think and figure it out, and not to report it unless Mom says okay. That she would confront Ken and see what he says. The doctor told her to get me in a cool tub of water as much as I could take it and as cold as I could. That it would ease the inflammation. And there was nothing but time to heal it. He wanted to see me in 2 weeks unless I had more problems. I had to take an aspirin for the pain. Mom crushed it and mixed it up with sugar because I didn't want to swallow anything. Stuffing shit down my throat. So Mom would crush the aspirin and have equal amounts of aspirin and sugar and she would have me take that. And so it was like having sugar in my mouth. It was maybe half a teaspoon or 3/4 of a teaspoon, and I would swallow that. I took lots of baths, cool one. Now I know why I did the Kegels in the tub so much. I realized that as I relaxed and the water would get into my vaginal cavity, that it would cool down and I would feel better. And so my body just started to, if I can manipulate these muscles, then I can pull the cool water in, and because it would get hot in there, and I could push the hot water out and bring cool water in. So I guess intuitively figured out how to do Kegels. I wanted the cool water inside. I figured out how to do it by accident, and it helped, so I did it a lot. I was hurting for 3 or 4 weeks, wet my pants a lot. I was 2 weeks late for the start of school. I turned 10, I put here. I think I turned 9. I'm going to put 9 there. Because now I understand timing a little better with stuff. Mom confronted Dad a lot about Whitey, about him, about Indiana and his parents, about duping her all the time, about making her think she's crazy and telling her she's starting to confront him about her programming. Dad brushed her off. Angie and Mary didn't say much at all, and in fact stayed away from me. I was glad when they went to school. We went back to the doctor, and I was improving. Mom was waiting for me to stop wetting my pants. But I went to school. Mom was waiting me for stop wetting my pants by the time I went to school. He said that was a good idea. I didn't need any more trauma from the kids at school from that. He gave her an excuse note for school. She said she had to talk to Ken, my dad. He was adamant about not, and she said she had talked to my dad, and he was adamant about not knowing what happened. The doctor said, I hope so. But all the other infections leads him to believe otherwise. He stressed again leaving Dad. She said she would keep that in mind. And I'm just making a note here mentally that the follow-up visit, Mom went and saw the same doctor, not the one Dad wanted her to see. Those are some of the memories of being home from school. I watched cartoons, game shows, took baths, played Barbies. And I recall Barbie and Ken camped out with the Barbie airplane and had sex a lot. Barbie and Ken, I'm 9. I took a box of stick matches and a small plate. I think it was a saucer from Cup and Saucer teacup. Put the whole box of matches, those, thick box. There's still like 200-300 matches in there. Put them on a small. I put the whole box of matches with the flame part in the center, a perfect stacked circle of them on the plate, and lit it. It was a big campfire. I liked seeing it go up in flames. Now think about that. Even though it's a Barbie airplane, you got Barbie and Ken. They're both naked. They're laying on each other, and I'm creating a bonfire. That gives me recall of when I was 4-ish, and that there was a ritual by a river. There was a black mass, and there were massive bonfires. So I was recreating it in my Barbie and Kens. I put on here, I think Mom got me the Barbie plane because I would be home so much from school. Angie and Mary were jealous. Mom took it away from me later, the matches and all that. She was scared and mad. I could have burned down the house or myself. I do remember Kevin, so another memory, a separate one, different one. I do remember Kevin with Irene on the one visit they came with us when Whitey was anally raping me and I injected her. I had my head down and not looking on purpose, but I heard it all. She taught him cunnilingus I put here. That's where he would use his mouth on her vaginal area. She told him to suck this like he sucked on his dad. She was loud. Kevin obviously was quiet, but even when he was free, he looked down and away a lot. Didn't speak unless he had to. Irene stroked his hair. She had him undress and played with his penis. He came. He was ashamed. I came too. I was ashamed. It was at the same time. We bonded from across that cellar room. Irene and Whitey were dressing. They rushed us back. Bob asked Kevin what he thought. He said it was okay. Then I was sent to bed. Bob took Kevin to their cabin, said he was a man now. Dad locked up and passed out. Angie and Mary rocked me to sleep. Mom and Mary Ann were away, stuck in town. So that was that first incident. I had gotten more details about that. And that's the end of that journal and this particular book. And since I spent so much time talking about TV and radio, I'm going to, I think, end this off. But I guess the thing I want to stress here is go back through your journals. Each time you'll remember more. And yeah, the first time you're going to have the emotional reaction. And maybe the second time too. And, you know, my counselor tells me that the key to healing is expressing your rage. You must, I won't say must, but I got a torso and I beat on it, and I can take my rage out on that. He says that when you're crying, it's because you couldn't express your rage. You couldn't fight back. So when you have that, you know, initial memory and the surge of adrenaline and the realization and the shock of what it is, comfort that child. Let that child cry and release it. But just understand that underneath that, that's not all there is. Underneath that is the rage that they feel, the injustice and the desire to fight back and just get the rage out. So yeah, cry, comfort your children, your little ones inside, but also give them a chance to release their rage. And go over your journals more than once, twice, 3 times. If you can get past the emotional part, you'll be able to reread your journals without that, emotional triggers. The triggers become diminished and diminished and diminished with each emotional release. And you'll notice if you do get something to beat on, and you'll notice you'll want to cry while you're hitting it, do it. The tears, don't let yourself stop if you're crying. Keep going until the tears are gone. It's the rage and the sadness at the same time. But if you stop while you're crying, you're telling that part, yeah, cry, but don't release your rage. So don't stop if you are crying. Keep going until the tears are gone. And yeah, you might exhaust yourself physically. And I'm going to do some videos showing you what my husband taught me on how to hit, because I was whacking. You saw it first, I whack it straight up and down, kind of wildly. And I'll tell you, I was getting, not injured, but my shoulders and neck were really starting to hurt. My husband saw me and he says, "Can I show you how to do it right?" Because he was a boxer and all that in the military. So he showed me how to move my body and how to stand and use my feet so that I can get the most power out of my strike without hurting myself. So those, I think, are going to be my next couple of videos. So, again, Pars, is there anything else we need to pop in here real quick? Let me just take a moment. They say, hi, everyone. We feel good. Not all of us 100%, but my parts are what is doing this video with me consciously as well, because a lot of them are co-conscious with me now, and they're very excited to be on camera, doing good work, having clothes on, and sharing how good they feel and that you can get there. I got goosebumps all over. They're just very happy, very excited. A little teary right now, so I got to go work on Ted. But they all say hi. Hi. Anyhow, I wish you well in your journey. I hope these tips help you. I won't say tricks because they're not tricks, but the tips, things that work for me, have sped up my journey and my remembering. And if you're saying to yourself, I don't want to go fast, that is a part in there that has been taught and trained and conditioned not to reveal. So your conscious mind and the child parts inside that do want to reveal, quiet your mind. Stop filling your mind up with TV and radio and audio books and whatever. Listen to the chatter that goes on in your head, the natural chatter. It's your parts chit-chatting. Be sure to record it somewhere, either on paper or an electronic journal. Like I said, for me, things are going so fast and furious, my hand and paper cannot keep up without me losing memories. Those little parts that snatch it away because they got time to. If I can dictate it, I get the bulk of it. And even then, sometimes what was that I just reminded, and I'll lose it. But because I'm dictating it and I go back and I go through it again. Oh yeah, that's what that was. I lost it the first time through, but when I went the second time, it came back. Then when I moved it to email and into a Word document, I got more details. And then when I move it into my PowerPoint, I get more details. And you're not always going to break down crying. You're not always going to have the surge of adrenaline. But the initial recall, you will. And be gentle and kind with your parts and let them know. This is something that was told to me when I was 20. And I only remembered the sexual abuse with my dad. I didn't remember any of the SRA stuff. And I was talking about it. And I don't even remember who this person was, but I think I was hard on myself. And she reached out and touched my hand, and she looked me in the eyes very gently. She said, Diana, you know that you were innocent, right? And I looked down and I said, no, I don't. And she lifted my chin up. And God bless her for doing this. She said, you were innocent. You didn't get a choice. You coped. You handled it. But you were innocent. So, since I was in my 20s till now, I'm 58, so for 38 years, I've always hung on to that kindness that woman gave to me. So, all of my parts are going to talk to all of your parts right now. Excuse me. And I'm going to touch you very softly on the arm and tell you that you were innocent. You didn't get a choice. You did nothing wrong. You did nothing to deserve it. The people that hurt you are just evil, bad, horrible, awful, sadistic people who worship Lucifer, Satan, whatever you want to call it. You were innocent. And if you're looking down right now or crying, it's okay. I'm going to lift your chin up and look you dead in the eye. You were innocent. You're a child of God, and you didn't deserve it. So hang on to that. And now back to... See, I'm switching. Back to the adult parts and the conscious. I hope that you're your conscious person, whatever. God bless you. Thank you for listening. And have a great week. I love you all.